Welcome to Small Business Saturday.
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays here at our, new time slot at 9 a.m. Central Time. So everybody gets that extra hour of sleep, and hopefully we can catch some more folks closer to the West Coast and whatnot. So my name's Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at oursuccessgroup.com. Good morning, welcome in, and good morning, Beth. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you tuning in here this morning. So today we're going to talk about what to do when our quote unquote why changes, and we're going to clarify what that all means here in just a little bit. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for joining us here this morning. So I am looking forward to having a conversation with you all about that. And Gusta, hello as well. Thanks for tuning in. And Kristen, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. All right. So as you guys are hopefully aware, we are continuing kind of our free preview month here. Good morning, Chuck. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you tuning in. So we're continuing our free preview month of the content that you can get inside of Club OSG. So I can't remember how long ago, but we kind of made the determination that we needed to move Small Business Saturdays inside of our private members group for the Our Success Group members. And just that way we could really focus on it. I want to go deeper into some topics, talk about things that we talk about inside of our success group. But we realized and had people asking about not only Small Business Saturdays, but what Todd does twice a month, started doing twice a month, that he calls after hours, after Tuesdays with Todd, where we go a little bit deeper on some things. So Club OSG was born, Todd's idea, and I think it's a good one, and I fully support him here. So basically what Club OSG is an opportunity to tune in to Small Business Saturdays Live, also be able to catch the after hours program, and you're also going to get 10% discounts off of Fat Dad Wholesale and Montco.biz. So we are continuing. So for the next, let's see here, today, next Saturday, the Saturday after that, those will all be free preview out to the public. But after that, you either have to be an Our Success Group member, which you can become a member. And you want to, if you're interested in checking that out, let me get that banner up here real quick. If you'll just go to oursuccessgroup.com/memberships, that will tell you all about memberships. But if you're not quite ready for that yet, and you just want to get like a taste of what it is that we're doing here with our success group, then you can also become a Club OSG member. And in fact, I know we've got a couple of Club OSG members, or at least one. I know Chuck is a member. So if you'll go to oursuccessgroup.com/Club OSG, you can check that out during the free preview month. The price is discounted, and you lock that price in for the life of your membership there. That's how we always do things with our success group, is once your price is there, it is locked in for the life of your membership in whatever program that you're in there. So let's check in with a few other folks. Wendy, good morning. Mo, thanks for tuning in. Todd, I was just talking about you, so maybe you heard me. And Wade, good morning. Thanks for being here. All right, so one more time here real quick. Check out if you're tuning in and you're not either a Club OSG member or a regular Our Success Group member, please make sure to check that out, because this will go back inside of those areas here starting June 1st. I'll let you know what we've got planned coming up in June, and in fact for the next couple of weeks as well. I'll let you know at the end here today. All right, so I just heard my phone beep. I forgot one thing, so let me go ahead and turn off my turn off my notifications there. Okay, so today again we're talking about, and let me get that banner out of here, that'll be annoying to me. Okay, so what we're talking about what to do when our why changes. So when we talk about our why changing, it's a lot of what it is. It's our reason, that purpose. What I think we can most closely define as something that's going to change inside of our why is probably our passion and what we love doing. And these things, like I said, our reason, our purpose, our passion, those can shift from time to time. Big life events are going to make shifts to this, right? If any of you have kids, that moment when you had a kid, that was probably a big shift in your life. What was important to you changed probably pretty dramatically. The other big life events can change things too. Maybe we have certain realizations about ourselves. We accept something about ourselves. We become more trusting of ourselves. We have more self-confidence, things like that. Those things can make changes. And honestly, other reasons will cause shifts too. Just the fact that we start to get a better understanding of who we are, and we are more honest with ourselves about who we are. We embrace what we all are all about, and we stop worrying about what other people think, and we spend some time getting some clarity on things. Those will all change. Todd, I'll get you your comment in a second. Those will all change what it is that is our passion, right? And I'm going to use passion here today a lot because I think that's what really shifts is our passion. It's not our why necessarily that shifts, because I think our why is made up of a couple of different things, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So let me check in on the comments here. Good morning, Heidi. Thanks for being here. And said, good morning. Excellent. Thank you guys so much for joining. And Todd said, yes, things change. Kids, you have kids, no more jet skis, right? There's things that are more important in life than jet skis. And then Kristen saying hello to Todd. And Pamela, good morning. And thank you so much for being here. I'm glad that you joined, Pamela, because you were the one that brought this topic up. And I'd love to hear your take. So for those of you that might be a little bit newer to SBS or just well, regardless, newer or not, but I want to also kind of talk about this. The reason that I started SBS a long time ago was to talk about some of these topics. Sometimes they're bigger, wooier. I think this is what some people would consider a bigger, wooier topic, though I think that this is completely and utterly important to work on and do the best we can to be successful. So to me, it is actually a core down kind of situation, but I started SBS to be able to have these conversations. I get to sit here and share, I get to work on my thoughts through putting the shows together. But what's more important to me is having you guys here to kind of participate. I want to get your take on these things. So the reason I bring that up is this was actually an idea or thought that Pamela had, and Todd suggested it would be a good Small Business Saturdays, and I agreed. So here we are. So again, looking forward to hearing your feedback on this stuff, Pamela. And good morning, Connie. Thanks for being here. All right. So as I just mentioned, our passion, I think, to me, is what changed. We have those big life events. We have the realizations. We get a little more clarity on who we are, those kinds of things, and there are a multitude of reasons that our passions might shift. So with that being said, I don't believe that the passion is what makes up our why in general. All right. I think it's a part of it. And I think, because here's why I think it's just a part of it. This quote actually summarized it pretty well for me when I was really kind of digging into my why, what it is that I'm put on this earth to do. And I was listening to a podcast, and Mike Rowe, some of you might be familiar with him. Most people would know him as the guy from Dirty Jobs. So I whether you love him or hate him, he's to me a pretty smart guy. And he said this once on a podcast I listened to, and I don't have it verbatim here, but he basically said passion is too fickle to follow, but it's too important to ignore. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Our passions will change, and therefore it is a little bit fickle, right? What we want to love doing each and every day will kind of change a little bit, but our passions are also so important to who we are as a person that we can't just ignore it. So I guess the question I want to try to answer here today is, if our passion is too fickle to follow, how can we stay on that right path? What is some of the guiding forces that we can kind of hold true to as these things adjust and change? Now, for me, I believe that our quote unquote why, that core piece, that piece in the middle, does not change. It is those passions that do change, that kind of feel most important to us at the time. So we have other parts of us that don't change all that much, and to me, those other parts of us that don't change are our core values. What are the strengths that we have, and what is it that we hold important to us? For me, it's that abundance mentality. For me, it's also this idea of community. For me, it's this idea of going out there, doing things, and not just expecting somebody else to do things for you, but to work together in a partnership and grow. So those are some of my core values. And then also those things that we're really good at, the things that in fact, I'm going to bring up some things from this book right here called The Greatness Zone. It's actually a small little book. It's a super easy read. I think it's, let's see here. It's about 88 pages. 88 pages. So I think it's a really good book. In fact, it's not even, I haven't been able to find it as an audiobook. You actually have to get the paperback version of it if you want it. But the other part of it is, what is it that we're good at? What is it that you lose track of time when you're doing it? So with that, that's what I want to try to kind of tackle here today, is to kind of help everybody, including myself, kind of realize that our core values, kind of what we're good at, those kind of don't really change all that much. Those can be our points here that don't move, but the passion part does kind of circle around a bit, right? And the different points and parts of it will change from time to time. So with that being said, I said I wanted to share a couple of things with you here. This idea, and I've kind of already been pointing to it a little bit because I'm already seeing it in my head, but I actually have some visuals here for you guys, is this idea of these concentric circles. I wrote an article not too long ago for Graphics Pro magazine about finding your why and using that as your core foundation. And I had this concentric circle there. And so again, you see the core values, that's the blue part up there. And then down below is I had oppositions, because I think that's another way to kind of describe things that are important to us. If you look at the things that upset you, typically the opposite of the things that upset you are actually your core values, are actually what are your principles. So you've got that. I would also kind of consider that opposition circle to be the things that we lose track of time at, the things that we're good at. And then you have your passion. And I believe that those things intersect in the middle. And while that passion circle might change and rotate a little bit, that intersection point is still going to be the same. So if we can use these two things to kind of our core values and what we lose track of time at, or again, the things that we're opposed to, or things that are important to us as our guiding light, then we can deal with the change in our passion. And then here's another picture to kind of look at the same thing. And this came out of that book that I just held up before called The Greatness Zone. And again, that idea of a concentric circle, what you were good at, that was what I was talking about there with, what you lose all track of time doing. And then for their particular circle, it's the two things on the top, what you love to do. That would be what your core values are. That would be, again, what you lose track of time doing. So again, those two things at the top in this one are kind of the guiding lights for you. But then the bottom one on this one, what success is for you, that's the passion, right? That's what success. Basically, to me, what success means is you're doing something that you love, and people are recognizing that you love doing it, and therefore you're rewarded for that in whatever it is that success means to you, whether that's significance, whether that's accolades, whether that's money, whether that's whatever. But success really to me is doing something that you love to do and being able to do that and have others recognize you for that. So, all right. So that's the whole idea of the concentric circles that I wanted to share with you guys. So if you guys have some thoughts there, please start popping them in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts and feedback. But I think the first part of all this, before we get into kind of understanding our passion. Good morning, Doug. Hey, Ron. I appreciate that. Hey, I always joke that my parents paid extra for that extra A there. That way I could be at the front of the phone book, but we don't have phone books anymore. So anyways, all right. So we talk about those concentric circles, looking about what success is. But the first thing that we've got to do, and this is the takeaway that I want you guys to have from this, is we have to get clear on those other two things first. All right. Because if we're not clear on what the core values are and what success means to us, or what you're good at, what you're opposed to, again, if we don't have those two pieces that are a little bit more stagnant, that don't change, then all we have to do is to chase around this passion, right? Which I said earlier, we believe is a little bit fickle at times, right? The whims of what's interesting to us at the time, we can be dragged around aimlessly by that and basically constantly be chasing that without actually ever getting to success. So the big takeaway that I want is to make sure that you guys have spent some time doing that, getting clear on what your core values are, getting clear at what you're good at, getting clear at what you lose all track of time doing. And there's a lot of different ways you can go about that. For me, getting to my core values, I went through a couple of different processes. One of them was just getting a list of core value words. In fact, I just now thought of this, so I don't even have a banner ready for it. But if you'll go to oursuccessgroup.com, and up in the pull downs up there, we've got a section called free stuff. And from that, if you'll go to downloads, reading, and what's it say? Downloads, reading, and suggested tools. Right at the top there, there's a tool called core value template. So let me pop that up and see if I can just share that with you guys real quick. Like I said, it just popped into my brain. So apologize that I'm clicking and talking at the same time. All right. Which one of you is this? There we go. Okay. All right. So let's get that on screen and pop that up. Okay. So we'll click in here and it's going to get you to this, basically a spreadsheet here. Shows you how to use that. But inside of that, there is this list of all these words. And basically what you want to do is you want to go through this list of all these potential core value words, and you want to start highlighting. I would pick between 5 to 25 of these that really speak to you, and then kind of go from there. So that was kind of the first place that I started. So we'll get that back off the screen. But again, if you'll just head to our success group, and in the free stuff, you can find that right there. So that was the first part of the process for me to kind of get the core values. The next thing that I did that was extremely helpful, and I highly recommend this to you, at the time, or maybe right before, it was called the Clifton Strengths Finder. It's now owned by the people at Gallup, you probably heard of them maybe through the Gallup polls. So it's the Gallup Strength Finder. And I think it's you do have to invest some money. It wasn't a huge amount of money. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but like $50 or something like that, I'm thinking. But it was super helpful for me to really kind of get that knowledge of who the heck I am and what my core values are, stuff like that. So I think the first big takeaway that I have for you guys is make sure you spend some time getting clear on the core values and what you're good at. Right? Okay. So once we have that, to me, the next thing that we want to do here is, again, we're saying, okay, passion's maybe a little too fickle to follow it around. So as that passion wheel spins, we can still have that why, right? But we adjust slightly to make sure that we're including our passion in what we're doing at the time. So again, once we have some clarity on that, we use those two guiding principal points to, again, allow us to kind of stay on one path and not be bouncing all over to different paths depending on what our passion does. But once you have those two guiding principles, your core values and what you're good at, then you can also then allow the passion to be part of it, right? We can make some slight changes, because here's what the next important piece is for me. Napoleon Hill, he is the author of Think and Grow Rich, and what some would consider the father of modern self-help, right? He kind of was the first person to start a lot of this, and in fact, you look at a lot of people that are sharing information today, that Tony Robbins, the Brennan Burchards, the Jack Canfields, those kinds of people out there right now. And you can trace a lot of the roots of what they're talking about back to this Think and Grow Rich idea. And Napoleon Hill gives credit to Andrew Carnegie and the people of the time back in the 1930s who were successful. So anyhow, what Napoleon Hill said is successful people make decisions quickly and change their minds slowly. So the reason I bring that up is that's the next important piece here, is I don't want to go make huge knee-jerk reactions to my passion changing. I don't want to go just, wholesale change, everything in my life at one time. But instead, what I want to do as I understand and notice that my passion is shifting is I want to start leaning into it, right? I want you to act as if your passion has changed, and just start trying a few things that might more closely align you to how your passion has changed. So by acting as if, by leaning into it, what we start doing is we start trying some things. We start taking some actions. And once we start taking those actions, we'll start to see those slight changes, and we'll start to see what things fit, right? What things align with our why, what things actually feed that passion sense, what things will, what things you need to do more of. And then you're also going to try some things that you end up going, okay, that didn't really fit, maybe it felt yucky or whatever, however it is that you can kind of internally understand that's right or wrong. So we start, once we start taking those actions, we start seeing those different sides of things. And that's why we don't want to make these wholesale changes, because when we make a wholesale change, we don't have the ability to understand which part or piece of that was right and which didn't work, right? So that's why I want to just start making small changes, and I want to start leaning into it. And then once I start leaning into it and I start making those small changes to more closely align with how my passion, or, as it might feel at times, how my why has changed, next we need to make sure that we're getting feedback. We need to make sure that we're really open to the feedback. We need to make sure that we're really understanding of what other people are trying to tell us, not have this I know better because it's my life, just to take it in, right? You want to take in feedback without judgment. Well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about, or I know better, or, those things are all judgment. And I'm not saying that you have to take that feedback and just go, yep, they're right, everybody else is right except for me. What I'm saying is you have to take that feedback without judgment and then just let that sink in. I'm not saying to take the feedback and use it to make your next step, but if you automatically start judging that feedback, that suggestion you get with, well, I already know better, two things are going to happen. First, people are going to start going, well, they're not open to feedback anyway, so why should I bother wasting my time helping them even when they ask questions, right? So that's the first part. The second thing that's going to happen is if you're already making those judgments, then that feedback is not going to be any good for you. So what you want to do is you want to take that feedback in, just accept it without judgment, and start gathering it, right? One piece of feedback is not going to give you everything that you need, so if somebody tells me something and they're giving me constructive feedback and I'm accepting of it, well, that one person's idea might be a good one, but I'm not sure I want to just act on that idea right away. I want to try to gather more, right? So I need to go out and start asking more people, or I need to be open to that. But if you've already made decisions about who you're going to listen to and who you're not going to listen to, then again, you're already judging that feedback. So stop judging the feedback. That's the first and most important thing. And then also look at ways that you can set up some metrics, some numbers, some way to track, right? This idea of, oh, our gut tells us, and yes, our gut does normally tell us, our gut, or that reaction we get, is normally a pretty good indicator, but our guts can sometimes also be wrong. So how do we have a good way to put this? If you guys have a good way to put this, I would say a quote unquote scientific way to measure that result, that feedback, that that thing that we just tried. What are the numbers telling you? What are the metrics telling you? So again, make sure that we're open and actively getting feedback, and that we're completely open to. And then you're going to lean into those changes. And as you're leaning into those changes, make sure that you have a metric, some sort of way to measure, all right, is this working or is this not working? Right? So that's kind of my rundown. But before I kind of wrap up my part here, I want to kind of use my story personally as an example, and maybe this will help folks. But if you guys have thoughts, questions, what did I miss? What did I get wrong? What am I getting right? All those kinds of things, whatever it is that you guys are thinking, feeling right now, I want you to start posting that stuff in the comments. And while you're doing that, let me just share my story real quick, as a way to kind of give you an example of how this might work. Because yes, my passion has changed, or maybe I got more clarity on it. I think that's probably more true for me, is that I got more clarity on it. I actually had a moment, probably early on in my, after my second son, Lewis, was born. Probably also had a similar situation with when my first son, Keegan, was born. But this kind of moment where I was really concerned, like I legitimately thought that I did not have a purpose, right? I did not have a why. I did not I just was here to be second or something. I had no idea, and I could not figure out how to get to that idea. I realized that it was what ended up happening, and I'll explain it more throughout my story here, but I was really just too scared to actually have one, because that meant that I had to take responsibility, and I actually had to live that passion. So what worked for me were the things I kind of already talked about. I went through the core value list. I finally started getting some clarity on that. I took that Clifton Strengths Finder program and really kind of understood what it was that I was strong at. At first I was a little bit horrified by the things that I was not strong at. Empathy was one of them, and which my wife is the exact opposite of that. So it was like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work? But I started to realize that's okay, right? It's not that I don't have empathy. It's just not something that's completely natural to me all the time. So I have to be aware of that, and I have to understand that. But if I start leaning into my strengths, this idea of community, the significance, the fact that I love finding solutions, I'm very competitive, right? So I can either let that strength of competitiveness get in the way and ruin the relationships that I have, or I can understand that competitiveness is just an opportunity to raise the tide of everybody, and to really kind of be willing to push forward, get the team to go and find the team that I want to be part of, and go from there, right? How do I make the other people around me better? So I started getting some clarity on that. And that was really big for me, because at this point in my career, my entire adult life, I had always kind of worked for somebody else. Now, I grew up in a place where entrepreneurship, my dad had his own CPA practice. He was around entrepreneurs all the time. I love the whole idea of entrepreneurship. And I always wanted, I always had these ideas and things I was going to try ever since I can remember, really. But for whatever reason, I had always worked for somebody else. I always worked my way up to a point where I was kind of the second in command. I got all the things done. I did all the dirty work and all that stuff. And I love that. And that really was great. And I had a lot of fun doing that. I learned a lot from doing that. But I never felt fully fulfilled, so after I finally got clear on what these core values were, what my strengths were, what I love doing the most, then I could go, okay, now I can follow that passion, right? I realized that I needed a partnership. I was, yes, you were number 2. Thanks, Todd. I realized I needed a partnership, somebody like Todd that we could feed off of and grow together. And, but by finally being able to have those points that didn't move, what I did was then I started kind of leaning into it. Right. So let me get to a comment here before I go much further, because I do want to, this is good. Well, let me get, Jerry said heart attack and open heart surgery changed my why. Right. Yep. Kind of understand that life is, we gotta live it. We gotta do what we love and not do what we think we have to do all the time. Right. Thanks for sharing, Jerry. Lisette says, still trying to find the right direction, had a successful vinyl business, but put too much strain on family life and decided to pull back. Love sublimation more right now, but can't devote 100% due to day job and family. Which again, I think this is an important piece of this, right? Yeah. If you don't have some clarity on what your core values are and stuff like that, they can get lost. And I would guess, Seth, that one of your core values is the family life and that feel and that part of it. And so finding a way to get that balance will actually bring you closer to success. So I love that you shared that. And I think by doing these things we're talking about here, just leaning into it, trying some things and continue to take action and continue to move forward, get help, get feedback, measure what's working, what's not working. I think that will, doesn't mean that we have to put 100% into it. In fact, I don't think that you are successful if you're putting 100% into your business. Now, I want you to be able to live it, and I want you to be able to have it be a proud part of your life. But I don't really think the people that are truly successful wholeheartedly identify 100% with their business. I think that it is this, you've got all of these different parts of your life, and to truly be a success, they all have to be at a 10. They all have to be striving to be at a 10. And if you're striving 100% of the time to be working on your career and your business, all the rest of the parts of your life are going to suffer. I'm living proof of that. I am not at the healthiest stage right now because I have put so much effort into what's going on with our success group. And that doesn't mean I want to stop putting effort into our success group. It just means that I also need to realize that I've got to figure out a way to make time for that other stuff, get healthy, eat better, exercise more, that kind of thing. Right. So, thank you so much for sharing that, Lisette. Pamela, perfect. Thank you. For me, my clarity changed. I started selling supplies while creating because I saw the margin bright lights, right? And I found that I couldn't successfully do both. My supplies were the lower margin of the two pieces. The supplies, my cost of acquisition was getting high. I found lack of loyalty for my company not to be super strong. I was taking 80% of my time for less than 20% of my income. I was beginning to regret that part of my business. Yep, there you go, Pamela. This is great. And here's the part that I want to first give you huge kudos for is, and like that's a high five. Great job. Is you're having that realization, right? And you've put numbers to it. You found that 80% of your time was being devoted to only 20% of your income, right? So there's that numbers, that metric to kind of understand what's working, what's not working. The bright light of the margins, right? So we can't, and this is where, again, finding that niche, being really good at something and just focusing on that and understanding what that is will make this more important. You have to kind of, again, understand what it is that you're trying to do and realize that, yes, sometimes the job that seems like you're going to make a lot of money on, and then this is where like people really starting out can really struggle, because they want to be everything to everybody. But what they're going to find is that they're going to be spending 80% of their time for 20% of the income, if they allow their passion, or what that bright light is, right? That margin, to guide them. So starting off by understanding what's important to you, and then figuring out how that matches up to potential customers, and then focusing on doing that. For Lisette, she said that she's loving sublimation, right? And there's something inside of that that's important to you. It could be the creating, it could be the design, it could be the finished product, it could be the memories that you're creating. There's something in there, and maybe it's something that I'm not even mentioning right now. So you deep down know what that is. So Pamela said, I sat on this concept of getting out supplies for 6 months before I decided to move forward. This started as a way to keep me busy during chemo. Now that I'm healthy again, I can move forward. There you go. So things have changed again, Pamela. And I think what the best thing to do here, though, is to start leaning into it, instead of just wholesale complete change of everything, is to just, lean into some things, try some things, listen to what other people are saying, ask some questions, get feedback, measure what's working and what's not working. And then start making that change gradually. Now, there are going to be times where they feel like big changes. In fact, let me continue on with my story here real quick, because I think maybe this can illustrate a little bit for you guys. But, so as I'd mentioned, I'd always kind of worked for somebody else, and I finally got those core values, and I realized that I needed a partnership, but I finally started to lean into what OSG has become right now. So the first thing that I did is I put together my very first webinar that I did by myself, that I was actually charging for, as opposed to going through somebody else or something like that. So, I think it was November of 2019. Todd, for some reason, Todd keeps better track of this than I do, so I appreciate that very much, Todd. But I put on this program called Digital Marketing Superheroes, and that was the start of it. And then, started leaning in, talking to Todd more. He kind of had some ideas. We took and ran with those ideas together. We started making the 5 keys. We knew what we wanted to do ultimately, but we knew that we couldn't just go, okay, here's our success group. This is, everything that we're at right now today. We couldn't just plop that down on the table the day we opened the doors in January of 2020. Right. We had to start leaning into it, so we just did the 5 keys, and we said, okay, guys, what do you think of this? And the feedback was good, and they wanted more. Okay. So if you want more, here's the next piece. Right. And then, okay, so we're getting good feedback on that. So that then came Masters of Success. And now we're looking at other things, and we started bringing in some guest trainers as well. And we wanted to start going deeper, and, Success Tracker. And for me, I started leaning into the success principles more. I've got my certification in the success principles. What other things kind of happen? I've started writing a book. I've made a commitment to writing a book. So I'm going to continue to lean into these things. And I found that the more things that I can do, thank you, Todd, 11/11/19 at 1 p.m. Central Time. I love it. So here, I'll put that up on the screen for those of you over on the YouTube side. All right. So anyhow, with all that being said, so that was the lean into it part. But then also we had to put some numbers around that. So Digital Marketing Superheroes, I had a goal of 25 people in that particular thing. And so that was my goal. That was my metric. That was the thing that told me, okay, this is the right thing to do. I think I ended up with 30 people. So it was like, okay, cool. We're on the right path. We had some goals with where the 5 keys were, blew out those goals tremendously, realized we needed to do more. And so we started doing more and all this other stuff. So just started leaning into it. And with that, and then also started measuring. But with that, there were some times along the way that felt like really massive changes that felt like I was making these wholesale changes, but come to realize after the fact that I wasn't. One of the first ones that stood out as like this thing that seemed like a really massive change was when I left Coastal Business Supplies. Obviously that was a pretty good job. I'd had an opportunity to really grow and learn and do a lot of things. But the principles of things, it just wasn't getting what I needed out of it. Things were changing. The values seemed to be changing there. What was important felt like they were changing to me. And so it was time to move. So I left Coastal, but from there I jumped into another gig where I had that safety net. I was helping somebody else. I helped through consulting, kind of a regular consulting gig. I helped build and grow Pick the Gift. And it was great. And again, things were going well, and I was feeling successful. But then, as things changed, again, there was something missing for me. There was just something there that didn't feel right. What was important to me and building culture and having core values and having a mission and a guiding light to go by, that became less important than just the day-to-day operation and making sure that we were making money and bringing in new customers and growing and all this other stuff. Again, not saying my way was right and the other way was wrong. It just didn't fit for me. So again, I made this other change that felt really big to like go, okay, no more of that. But what I realized after the fact is that the whole time I was practicing, I was leaning into other things, so Coastal, I'd started 2 regular guys. And so being able to create and do some of those things and be part of that community and build that community and whatnot, that was me practicing for leaving Coastal. And then, while I was at Pick the Gift, I did the digital marketing superheroes thing. And again, that was practicing. I started Small Business Saturdays. That was practicing. So what I realized is that I didn't make these wholesale changes, even though you look back and there were some pivotal moments. But what you come to realize is that you were actually practicing the whole time. So that's my suggestion. That's how I guess my story ties into this. And Pamela says, I leaned in for those 6 months, but decided the regret overtook the desire to do the glitter. Yep. Now, there you go. But you're leaning into it and you're understanding it. So my only suggestion is, again, just to kind of don't let the trees obscure the view of the forest, so to speak, is to, okay, that yes, we regret doing that, but let's make a change slowly, right? Is there a way to transition? Is there a way to still get value? All these other things. It sounds like you've really done the work here, Pamela. So I'm glad that maybe I'm a little too late on this one. So that could be the case. But who else? Who else has got some ideas, some thoughts here on all of this? To me, this is what we've got to do, right? When our quote unquote why changes, and again, I truly believe that our why does not change. It's just our passion that changes. It's what's important to us in that moment. But I don't think that our why is completely made up of just what our passion is. I think that's a part of it, and I think it's an important part of it. But I think our why, though, is actually more firmly planted in what our core values are and what it is that we're good at, what it is that we, our greatness zone, right? That's what our why is, and maybe that's what our why is that we were given, right? The passion is what's inside of us, our core values and the things that we're good at. Those are kind of maybe what we were born with or what we've developed into. But I don't think those change all that much. I think that is kind of what we're born with and what we were kind of, that whole idea of what we were put on this earth to do. So that's my take on all that. Hopefully that helps folks. Hopefully that allows you to kind of dig into that. If you do have any questions, again, let me just kind of recap real quickly here. First, make sure that you are as clear as you can be on what your core values are. Be as clear as you can be on what it is that you're good at, what you lose track of time doing. And then once you have some clarity on those things, or feel as clear as you can on those things, then you can start taking that passion piece and understanding that as that dial spins, that you can start making changes. And then from there, now you can start leaning into the changes and get feedback after you've started leaning into those changes and making some small changes along the way. And some of those small changes will feel like a big step, right? But it is just the next progression. And then from there, get feedback. Again, accept feedback openly without judgment. Doesn't mean you have to implement every single piece of feedback you get. It just means you have to accept it without judgment. And then from there, you can decide what to do with it. And then also have some measurement tools in place. Again, numbers are always the easiest because we can quantify those, right? So it's how many people, revenue, things like that. But you can also have some metrics of, how joyful does this make me feel on a scale of 1 to 10? And go back and check that out on a regular basis, that kind of thing. So have those tools, have those ways to measure that, and then just keep doing things. You keep doing the things that feel right, and don't worry about pleasing everybody. You can't be everything to everybody. You need to have a clear, balanced life to have a successful business. All right. So that's my take on all that. Thank you guys for allowing me to explore that with you. Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts. If you do have any other thoughts, again, please feel free to share them right now. Sheila, you're welcome. Glad that was helpful for you. That means a lot to me that you shared that. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right, upcoming next Saturday, I want to talk to you about finding that life purpose and some questions to ask. We've kind of talked about a few here today, those core values and some things like that. But next week, I do want to talk to you about that. Still going to be inside of our free preview month. So wherever you're tuned in today, you can check that out. But again, would love you to also either check out our membership program over at oursuccessgroup.com/memberships, or if you want to continue on into June here, if you'll go to oursuccessgroup.com/club OSG. So that's happening next week. Is we're going to talk about finding our life purpose. And again, I think that once we determine that, and because I think that life purpose also becomes the purpose for our business. And I think by being able to follow that and have that as your guiding principle, that will drive your business faster than almost anything else that you can do. Right. I truly believe that. So that's next week. So how to find your life purpose. After that, the next week after that, our last of the free preview month here, we're going to talk about change your environment, change your life, meaning what things are in your way? What things can you change, right? Can we clean up something? Can we make some changes to our environment? And our environment is all the things around us. So anyhow, change your environment, change your life will be happening on the 29th. Speaking of Club OSG, Todd says after hours will be earrings this next Tuesday, but it may have to be pushed back a couple of hours. Todd had some life events in their family that he's working through with the rest of his family. So he'll let us know as soon as possible. So thanks for sharing that, Todd. And then Small Business Saturdays after that, once we get inside of June here, if you want to continue on, you'll have to be part of either Club OSG or a private member. But the first thing I want to do the first week in June, June 5th, it will be, we're going to be talking about Facebook ads. And we're going to just hit some of the basics. Facebook ads are really tough to teach because your screen is going to look different than my screen almost all the time. Apparently there's 67 some odd different versions of Facebook, and they serve up whatever one they think is best without any rhyme or reason. So we're going to talk about the concepts, and hopefully from that, you guys can kind of take that. We're going to talk about uploading customer lists and just some real basic Facebook ad stuff. And then after that, we're going to be joined by Allie Banholzer, and she is going to talk to us about using a priority matrix to make better decisions in our inside of our business. And so that'll be on the 12th. I'm taking the week of the 19th off. I will be on my honeymoon. We got married 9-10 years ago, and we're finally taking our honeymoon. So thank you for your patience, Kylene. Love you. Anyways, so taking the 19th off, and then back on the 29th of June, from OSG member Connie Barth, I want to talk about doing online parties or kind of live selling events, and how we can come up with some ideas to make those fun, engaging, lively, and share some things that I've seen out there, and maybe some ways that we can kind of put some best practices into use to do some of that kind of thing, the online live selling. All right, so that's what's coming up on Small Business Saturdays. That's everything I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for your time here today. Thanks for being here. Let me make sure I got all of the comments. Gusta, you're very welcome. Lisette, very welcome. Jerry, slowly figuring this out. Jerry, the thing I wanted to say to you is, don't beat yourself up over it being slow or whatever. You're doing exactly what you should be doing in the time that you're supposed to be doing it in, right? I truly believe that we all do the very best with what we have in the moment, right? So even when we make mistakes, even when we have some bad judgment, we have we have to let ourselves off the hook, right? We have to continue to push forward, but don't beat yourself up for quote unquote slowly figuring this out. Because if that was the case, I would be beating myself up. Because it took me years of when I first started thinking about this to finally get to that point where I at least felt some more clarity. I'm still a work in progress today, and I've spent hours and hours and hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars on working on getting to this point. So that says I'm on year 6. Don't feel bad, Jerry. Yeah. So I'm probably on year 25 or 30 myself. Some days it feels like that. All right. I got that. Yeah. Todd said 67 versions of as of last month of Facebook. Yes. Connie. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. And appreciate your patience. Unfortunately, I couldn't fit it in any earlier, but towards the end of June, we'll work on that together. Obviously, inside of the Our Success Group private members group, we keep that conversation going and have some other ideas already. So it doesn't have to wait until the end of June, but we'll talk about it more formally here on Small Business Saturdays. All right. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time for being here. Again, we're going to try to stick to this 9 a.m. Central Time slot here as long as we can. We kind of did a poll inside the membership group, and that was the winner. We'll try to hang on to that time slot for as long as we can here, and only slowly lean into it and make changes where needed, right? There we go. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you next week.